The Jabalia refugee camp north of Gaza City is one of 8 in the Gaza Strip, and today it took direct hits from Israeli rockets. Dozens of Palestinians have died in the strike. Some of the images are too graphic to show. Few escaped the carnage. Palestinian anger is overwhelming, and there were immediate calls for revenge. Day 3 and Palestinians in Gaza sheltered as best they could as Israeli airstrikes blitzed offices and homes. Hundreds of Palestinians have died already. The death toll just keeps rising, and there may be worse to come. And these are waves of Hamas rockets being fired into southern Israel overnight, most of them taken out by Israel's Iron Dome defense systems. But some Hamas rockets did get through, hitting the southern Israeli town of Ashkelon. Palestinians woke up to the familiar but still shocking sight of collapsed buildings, including a mosque which was leveled. The Israelis say they hit more than 500 targets in the Gaza Strip in overnight bombing. This Palestinian man said, dozens of rockets fell on people while they were sleeping. There was no alarm or anything like that, so we started running in the streets, he said. We weren't prepared as we were in our beds.
Allahu Akbar!
Meanwhile, the Iranian-backed militant Palestinian group Hamas has released a fresh video of its surprise assault on the Erez crossing, the main transit point between Israel and the Gaza Strip. Images like these have stunned Israelis who assumed the border was impregnable. How wrong they were. So many questions about how Hamas broke out of Gaza remain unanswered. Even today, Israel admits the breaches in the border have not yet been sealed.
We need to go inside Gaza and destroy the Hamas and the Jihad. We need to kill all the leadership of Hamas and Jihad, and we need to, if the country and the government need the time, that we be inside our house and stay inside month, 2 months, until that the army do the job in Gaza and destroy the leadership of the Hamas and the Jihad. We give them the option.
The UN Security Council met last night in New York without agreeing a statement.
Regrettably, history for some media and politicians start when Israelis are killed. Our people have endured one deadly year after another. We came to the Security Council month after month, warning of the consequences of Israeli impunity and international inaction.
And so, with no prospect of peace and a ground invasion of Gaza by Israel's military expected later this week, both the Palestinians and the Israelis brace themselves for more bloodshed to come. John Cookson, Arise News.
And John Cookson joins us now live from London for more. Good day and a warm welcome to the program, John. I'm going to get straight into it. What more can you tell us about the attack on the camp at Jabalia?
Hi ladies, great to be on Newsday as always. Well, this attack on Jabalia is absolutely horrific. Social media is awash with images which we couldn't show on television. I can tell you the Palestinians are saying 50 dead. I would say more than 50, and certainly I've seen the bodies of young children. Jabalia camp was established back in 1948. It's one of the oldest camps in the region. It's the first bit of conurbation that you come to when you cross over from Israel into Gaza through the Erez crossing. It's home to about 100,000 people. The UN have centres there for health and education and some shelters for Palestinians. It's a complete mystery to me and probably to the outside world why Israel would strike at a refugee camp and we wait to hear from officials in Jerusalem as to the reason why. It has been struck before, back in 2014, when 15 people were killed. But this is an absolutely horrific attack, and you can see from the images that the level of destruction is absolutely unbelievable, and there are many bodies buried beneath the rubble, and it will take a long time for those bodies to be retrieved. It's a completely shocking incident, and I've no doubt at all that when the facts start to emerge throughout the day, there'll be worldwide condemnation of this attack at Jabalia. It's absolutely horrific.
Well, John, horrific is definitely the word for this. And I'm just wondering, how have the Israelis regained control of their territory close to Gaza?
Not quite. Saturday morning, of course, was when Hamas burst out of Gaza unexpectedly, catching the Israelis completely off guard, taking a number of hostages. And incidentally, we're hearing today that a number of Israeli hostages have been killed by Israeli strikes on Gaza, and inevitably that's going to happen more in the coming days.
Right. Now, speaking of more that is happening, the Israelis have, of course, cut off water and power supplies to Gaza. And we know that this will have, an increasingly terrible impact on the people. Can you give us a little bit more insight into the situation and the impact that the Israeli action is taking its toll on Gaza?
The Israeli Minister Gallant called today for a complete siege. He said no electricity, no fuel, and no food. Now, I have to say the Palestinians have been in this scenario before, and in the short term, they will get by. They're fairly, because of circumstances, fairly self-sufficient in food, and there are smuggling tunnels into Egypt, which I'm sure supplies will start to pass in the coming days. The power supply cut is a big problem. Not only for the Palestinian people, but for the hospitals who have to cope with terrible injuries and will be, frankly, unable to carry out operations without power. So in the short term, I think the Palestinians will get by. Is when this continues for several days, then the real impact will come.
Well, John, the Security Council met in New York just last night. Why couldn't they agree on a statement?
I could say because they're useless, and there will be many people saying that the UN these days is not fit for purpose. Here we have a meeting of the 15 most important countries in the world, the most powerful countries, the most economically sound countries, and still they can't agree. And the problem really is to do with world politics and the fact that things are changing. China's importance and power is increasing. The Russians, of course, are fighting a war against Ukraine, and all of this impacts on the general scenario in the Security Council. I think in due course they will agree a statement, at least, condemning the assault by Hamas and calling for restraint by Israel, which Israel will completely ignore if it follows form. So a disappointing meeting from the Security Council, but not unexpected.
Absolutely disappointing that after all this time, we're still unable to find a solution to this crisis. Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson, thank you so much for your time and your input on this issue.